Today I am celebrating Tattoo Removal Day. Who knew? Who knew that that was a thing? When I was when I was researching the different international days that can be celebrated, I was looking to include a wide variety of different topics and was quite surprised to see such a thing as International Tattoo Removal Day. And it strikes me as peculiar, but it is a subject which is close to my heart. I have only ever had one tattoo. It was a micro tattoo. It was a single dot on my finger. It's no longer visible. Does it really count? I do not have to go through the process of tattoo removal. So, can I really empathise with people on this subject? We live in a time where tattoos have become fashionable. They are a thing of this time. Yesterday I was in a care home and I was taken aback suddenly when a man came around the corner wearing a care uniform who was blue from top to bottom. The other day I was in Brighton and this guy that I mentioned he had many tattoos. But the other day in Brighton, I saw a man who was literally blue from top to bottom. His whole body was one whole tattoo. And many cultures around the world, particularly the Maoris, have had a practice of tattooing for a very long time. And the tattoos that they have all have very deep symbolisms, and their culture has embraced that, embodied that. It's a living part of their culture, and I must admit I've been very confused by the phenomenon of tattoos because it's not been part of our culture. It's becoming part of our culture. It once was something that had a particular relevance to people who went to sea, to people who were in prison. So it had a kind of a rough association, and now it's become something that your mum has. And there are people within my family, and there are people everywhere with tattoos. And I sometimes have had concerns that people have tattoos without really giving enough thought and depth and meaning to what it is to mark one's own body. I'm someone who's maybe a little bit obsessed with meaning and with trying to find reason and purpose in things. And there are people I know who use their body like a canvas. And I'm an artist. I have respect for people. Why not use one's own body as a canvas? We've only got it for this one lifetime. It's going to go into the ground anyway. It's not anybody else's property. It's my property. And I think that might be something that's at the heart of why there is this massive wave of interest in tattooing in a world where it seems like we have so little property that is ours, a stake in the ground, a home to call our own. It's like, well, this is my body. You might be telling us what we can do and where we can go and how much of this we can have, but this is my body and I can mark it. Now, I've never felt that massive impulse to mark my body because you wouldn't draw a moustache on the Mona Lisa, which is the line that I've always enjoyed when I heard somebody use that as a defense for not getting a tattoo. I thought, that's my line. But I just don't feel an impulse to... There are many times where I've deeply considered a tattoo. And I've thought to myself, if I can have that idea and still want it in a year or 2 years, if that idea continues to grow in importance to me, then I'll do it. None of those ideas have ever come to pass because life is this incredible evolving thing and things continually move, and I sometimes wince slightly when I see people who get tattoos because they're often so of the moment. They include people's names who may well exit their lives or have already left their lives. They may contain dates and places and thoughts which, seem to mean a great deal at a certain moment, but probably won't at a certain point too. Because the nature of the universe is that it's constantly changing. It's the only truth there is that things are perpetually changing. We are perpetually changing. Now, some people consider the history of their life in the form of tattoos to be kind of a record. They don't expect a tattoo to mean the same for them one day as it did when they got it in the first place. A tattoo is just a, a reminder for them of a particular moment, and it's there on their body in a form that they'll never forget. It doesn't have to mean the same. It doesn't have to still be true. They might fall out. They might fall out of love with the person whose name they inscribed upon their body, but that memory will still be there, and what that person meant to them, and they embrace that no matter how painful that might be. But there are people who are then in the process of they want to remove a tattoo. And there are clever tattoo artists that are able to disguise them, build them into another tattoo. But I have seen people where they've clearly just done a giant black square over where something had previously existed. And there are other people who are resorting to laser technology and all sorts of things to remove their tattoos. If we're removing a tattoo, that means that it's like a moment of our life that we're trying to delete. It's like trying to erase something that happened. And I feel conflicted and confused by that. I mean, I know that some people get tattoos when they're drunk, and we don't have to be drunk on alcohol. We can just be drunk on life, drunk on love. That it goes to our heads and we decide impulsively to do something in the moment. And I suppose that's what I feel about Tattoo Removal Day, is that it's a reminder that sometimes we surrender to these drunken whims, these passing, fleeting thoughts. You don't have to have a tattoo to see the relevance to this in your life. That there are moments where we become blinded by our passions and do things that we regret, that we then end up wishing we hadn't done. Now, I'm guessing that that's a very human condition. I can certainly think of things which I regret having done. My life and the lives of other people would have been better had I not done them. But these things have been done and can't be undone. So I suppose in a way, I'd like to encourage anybody who's considering to remove a tattoo to contemplate whether that's not just another one of those drunken moments, the desire to remove that thing at all costs. It is an attempt to undo something that has been done. Save yourself the thousands of pounds that it might cost to try and remove it. I would like to note that one of the things that I see in the phenomenon of tattooing these days is an aspect of narcissism which seems to be pervasive in this world. This is clearly narcissistic behaviour, what I'm doing now. I'm falling in love with my own image. In fact, I'm trying not to look at my own image. I am looking into the camera. But I'm aware that the use of these black mirrors, the use of social media, the existence of websites and Instagram profiles, these are all feeding into our narcissism. It's narcissism when I eat something in a wrapper that's going to get thrown away in an instant. That's something which is going to cost the planet that I'm doing in a throwaway, fleeting moment. And I suppose tattooing could not be a more narcissistic practice too. There are people, I see young people who have clearly spent thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds on adorning themselves with these symbols and emblems, many of them just not their own designs, not necessarily with their own purposes, because they've decided that they're going to have a sleeve, that they need to have this particular adornment to feel right about themselves, to be part of the game, to because that's the identity that they're trying to cultivate. I mean, the thought of spending thousands and thousands of pounds on being, you know, it's a painful process having a tattoo. You know, a needle is repeatedly going into you for long periods of time. So people don't do it for nothing. And yet many will choose an off-the-shelf tattoo and have someone print it on them. It confounds me slightly how, and you know, everybody chooses to do different things with their money. I buy musical instruments. I like to what do I spend my money on? It's mostly food and rent and children. We all have our predilections, we all have our hobbies and our pastimes and our favourites. But yes, I think on this subject, on this day of tattoo removal, I think it's worth just giving thought to the actual act of getting a tattoo in the first place. What does it really mean for you? If it's genuinely a work of art, if it's your work of art, if it has a symbolism that quietly resonates inside of you and will be there till your dying day, if you are getting yourself a tattoo because it's this ultimate expression of what it is to be you and will last and is something that you are confident you will never regret, go for it. Go for it. And maybe I too will join you one day. I still kick around ideas. Would it help me to have a tattoo on my body? I sometimes think about getting something on my hand so that every time I look down it reminds me, breathe, or give thanks, or who knows. But anyway, today I'm celebrating Tattoo Removal Day, and I wish you the very best on this day.